Well, I succumbed to the waves of pressure and I felt compelled to purchase a Big Muff 2. I say succumb to the pressure, I saw a couple of nice videos about it and decided I might quite like to add one to my collection, especially when I saw that there was going to be a more affordable nano-sized version of it. So here it is. Did I need another Big Muff in my setup? Absolutely not. Did I want another one? Well, absolutely 100%. But the real question is, and the reason you're watching this is, do you need to add another Big Muff to your collection? And hopefully I can help you answer that question with this video, because what I'm doing here is running the Big Muff 2 Nano up against 10 of my other favourite muff and fuzz pedals. I decided that was absolutely the right thing to do. I've been playing this pedal a lot since I've got it. I've been testing it against the other fuzzes that I have a lot since I've got it, and you deserve to hear that fuzzy goodness as well. So that's exactly what we're going to do in this video. Now I'm going to play 3 different tone tweaking loops for you in this video, where we really get to twist the knobs of all the pedals on offer, so you can hear how different and how similar the Big Muff 2 sounds to the other pedals. Now the first loop is going to be the Electro-Harmonix loop, where I use most of my Electro-Harmonix muffs up against this one. The second loop is going to be my favourite other muff type pedals, where we're going to feature some different brands as well. And the third loop is going to be the Big Muff 2 up against my favourite fuzzes generally. So there's going to be a couple of tone benders in there and a couple of other slightly different things. Timestamps and descriptions of everything that I'm doing are going to be down there in the description and the comments if you'd like to skip to a part of the video that you'd like to see first. Best, but let's get straight into it. My rig for today is going to be running all of the pedals into the front end of my Hughes & Kettner Ampman Classic pedal board amplifier. Pretty neutral clean setting on the clean channel, no reverb pedal or anything like that. And for my sins, I do like to run muffs into a clean channel of an amp. I apologise for that if you like it with a crunch channel. If enough of you ask for me to do another one with the crunch channel of the amp, I will do that in the future just in case. So let me know if you'd like to see that in the future. But the first loop is going to be the Electro-Harmonix muff pedals, apart from one, as you'll see in a second, and this is going to be played on the bridge humbucker of my Epiphone Les Paul. Now the main pedal, of course, and the one that we're running all the others up against, is the Big Muff 2. This is a dual op-amp design, will set you back about 120 euros or dollars, so it's slightly more expensive than the other standard Electro-Harmonix muffs, but you get the same 3 controls as the rest: volume, sustain and tone. So we kind of know what it does, and you'll have known from the other videos that we've got a lot of low end and some mids going on in this pedal. It's a more aggressive, sort of doomy, sludgy sort of a sound, and it seems to be great for bass players too. So that's the Big Muff 2, and the other classic, the icon that we're going to feature in each of the 3 loops, is this one. I guess we're calling it the Big Muff 1 now. This is the Electro-Harmonix Nano Big Muff. This is much cheaper than the Big Muff 2. It's about $80 or about 80-90 euros in Europe. Has the same 3 controls, but it's got that classic muff sound, so it's going to sound tonally significantly different to the Big Muff 2, at least in theory. And like I said, both of these pedals are going to feature in all 3 of the loops, because why not? These are the Big Muff benchmarks as of 2026. Now first up, in the first comparison with the 2 muffs, is going to be the Electro-Harmonix Green Russian. This is another one of my favourites. This is a really aggressive beast of a muff. It's got loads of low end, it's really gnarly, and it's beloved by bass players, presumably because it's got plenty of low end on tap as well. Now this is slightly more expensive than the standard Nano Big Muff, but slightly cheaper than the Big Muff 2 at about $105, $110 or euros. So definitely worth looking at, and I'm very interested to hear how similar or how different it sounds to the Big Muff 2. Then we've got the newest addition to my Electro-Harmonix muff collection. That's a triangle Big Muff, and that's going to be closer to the original Big Muff in terms of sound. This is again between the original Big Muff and the Big Muff 2 in terms of pricing. And now finally, for this first loop, I have to admit something. I don't currently own an Electro-Harmonix op-amp Big Muff. I'm really sorry about that, but I've got a boutique edition that we can use instead. This is the Fuzzsquatch by Interstellar Audio Machines, and I currently have this pedal on loan from my good friend Andy the Guitar Geek. Andy, if you're watching this, apologies, I will give this back at some point, but it's too much fun to do so just yet. But this is a boutique take on the op-amp Big Muff. It has the same 3 controls as the others, and it also has the tone bypass switch that the Electro-Harmonix version has as well. This is much more expensive than an Electro-Harmonix pedal would be, between 150 and a couple of $100 depending on where you shop. But I love op-amp Big Muffs. This sounds fantastic, and again should have slightly more mids than the others, so should sound a little bit similar in theory to the Big Muff 2. Enough talk then, let's start that first loop now, and just be aware before I start that I have made sure that all of the volume levels are matched at the start of the loops, and that's one thing to say about the Big Muff 2 right from the off. It has loads of headroom on tap. Let's make some fuzzy goodness now, and we'll speak in a bit more detail afterwards. Okay then, first loop done. What did you think? Which of the 5 did you prefer? Let me know your thoughts down there in the comments. But for me personally, straight away you could notice that the Big Muff 2, it does sound different from the others. It is a new thing, but they're all flavours of the whole overall muff topology. It's not as radically different as you might believe. However, there are definitely some differences, especially when you directly A/B them. You certainly have a lot more headroom with the Big Muff 2 than you do with most of the others, which could be a good thing depending on your own personal needs. And I also noticed straight away that the Big Muff 2 is a lot darker sounding, at least to my ears, than the other Electro-Harmonix offerings. You also get a bunch more low end than most, apart from the Green Russian maybe, and more mids than all of the other circuits as well. So it's definitely a different thing in certain respects, and this is going to be a great pedal for stoner and doom, and also for bass players too. And I don't know if you agree with me on this, let me know what you think, but my ears tell me that the Big Muff 2 is letting through a bit more of the dry signal than the other muffs. The Green Russian also lets a bit through, but the others don't really let anything through at all. It's pure fuzzy goodness, whereas with the Big Muff 2 you actually have quite a lot of dry signal coming through, and that might be why the Green Russian and the Big Muff 2 are going to be great for bass players, because they tend to love having a blend knob where they can blend in a bit of the dry signal, gives them a bit more clarity for the low end riffing. So that's what I heard from the Big Muff 2 compared to the others. I think my actual favourite from these 5 here would be the Fuzzsquatch by Interstellar Audio Machines, and that really makes me want to get an Electro-Harmonix op-amp Big Muff again. It's a really mean, fizzy, bright sounding sort of thing, has more mids than the others but less than the Big Muff 2, and it is just a really awesome sounding pedal, and I love bypassing the tone knob because it's so snarly and it has a different flavour to all the others. Now when it comes to the Big Muff, the iconic classic, well, this one does the Big Muff thing, and I think for me personally I actually prefer the original over the 2 for muffy kind of stuff, because it is just more muffy to my ears, although as we accept the Muff 2 more as the time passes, I think that could change as well. So that's the first round done then. Now it's time for round 2, and we're going to move on to some muff type fuzz pedals from a few different companies as well. So we'll use the Big Muff 2 and the original Big Muff in this loop as well, but the first of the other 3 is going to be one of the cheapest muffs that I own, and that's the Joyo Tiny Huge Fuzz. I don't know exactly which Electro-Harmonix fuzz this is a take on, but I've seen online that it could be a ram's head or it could be a standard Big Muff Nano. But there you go, it's a great sounding Big Muff, it's less than 50 bucks, same 3 controls as the others, comes in a lovely shell pink enclosure as well. What more could you want? So that's the Joyo Tiny Huge Fuzz. And next we're going to go to the opposite end of the pricing scale, but to probably my favourite boutique take on the Big Muff that I've ever played. This is the Rude Tech Effects 3 Muff 14, or 3 Muff 14, however you say it. This has 3 different muff circuits in it, a black, a Civil War, and a Green Russian, so it's got loads of different Big Muffs under the hood. You get the same 3 controls as the others, but you can move between those 3 different analog circuits, plus you have a tone bypass switch, and plus you have a second side on this pedal that is basically an integrated mids pushed overdrive. Now with muff pedals often they have a mid scoop to them and you lose yourself in a band setting. Well, this pedal is thinking of you there. It really lets you bump up the mids if you'd like to do that. So you'll hear all of the aspects of this pedal in the next loop, but it is the Rude Tech version. Will set you back about 250 bucks, so it is a rather expensive take, but this is a wonderful pedal and I absolutely love it. And the final pedal in the second loop here is from JHS themselves. It's the Crimson from their very sadly discontinued Legends of Fuzz series, and this is based on the Red Army Overdrive, the Mike Matthews Russian built muff from the early 90s. It's a wonderful sounding thing. You have a mode switch on this one on the side as well to give you an extra mid push if you would need that. So this is a great sounding and versatile muff type circuit as well. Now they were selling these off for under 100 bucks when they discontinued the series in 2025, but beforehand these were about 150 to 200 depending on where you were in the world. So again, more expensive than an Electro-Harmonix version, but very much a great muff to have, and I really like the Crimson. So let's listen to this next 5 now. This one's going to be played on the bridge pickup of my Fender Telecaster, and I'll tell you what I think afterwards. Well, that was the second loop. What do you think? For me personally, again, I thought that the Big Muff 2 did a great job, and once again we're hearing that darkness, that sort of stoner, doomy sort of sound coming out more and more as we go on with these different pedals. Now for me personally, I thought the Big Muff 2 did a great job against these other brands of muff pedals, but it's very hard for me to look past the Rude Tech and the JHS Crimson because those are both such fantastic sounding and versatile pedals, especially the Rude Tech. That just has so many different tones on offer, and with the additional mid-pushed overdrive side, well, you can basically do anything with that, and I love the tone bypassed option of that pedal as well. That's probably the best muff out there, but it comes of course at a price. Nevertheless, I thought the rest of the pedals did really well. The really cheap Joyo did a great job. It sounds very similar to the Nano Big Muff, and again they sound slightly different to the Big Muff 2, but you can take your choice again here, and they're all going to be great options depending on what you need. But now it's time to move to the third and final loop, and this is where we move beyond purely being in the world of the muff and we go into the general world of fuzzes, and I test the Big Muff 2 and the Big Muff Nano against three of my general favourite fuzz pedals. And the first of those is going to be my trusty Boss Wazercraft FZ1W. Now this is based on a tone bender topology. It's a really great modern fuzz pedal. The FZ1W has two modes, a vintage mode and a more aggressive cutting modern mode, and we will flick between both during the loop part of this video. And otherwise we have the same three volume, tone and fuzz controls as you would get on the muffs. But this is the Boss version. It's a modern pedal. It's really, really quiet in terms of operation, no extraneous noise, so it's a lovely pedal in that regard. Really easy to control as well. I really like it. This will set you back about 150 bucks depending on where you are, so it's more expensive than the Electro-Harmonix versions, but it's absolutely wonderful. And next is going to be kind of one of the cheap sort of classics of the past 10 years when it comes to fuzz. It's the DOD Carcosa, and this is a supremely versatile fuzz, which I think is a great sort of first choice fuzz for many people because it has so many different tones within it, and it's got more controls than many of the others, but tweaking those really lets you go to different areas of fuzz that you don't get with all of the Big Muffs, for example. So there's four knobs and a switch on this one. On the top here we have a before and an output, and on the bottom we have an after and a high cut and a little mini switch there in the middle. Now the before control is basically giving you how much fuzz you've got with the pedal. The output control is going to be the volume or how loud you'd like it to be. The after control is more like a bias control, so that's biasing the pedal and telling you basically how smooth the fuzz is going to be or how spitty and velcro it's going to be. And the high cut is just that. How much of the high end do you want to be letting through? How close to wasp in a jam jar territory do you want to get? And the two-way mini toggle switch here, basically DOD themselves say that this is going to work really well depending on whether you're using a clean or a crunchy amp, and it will really let the pedal shine to the best of its abilities. But we'll flick it up and down during the loop and you can hear how that responds to the clean channel of my amplifier. So that's the DOD Carcosa then. And finally we come to what is possibly my favorite overall fuzz pedal and has been since I've had it for the past couple of years. It's another one from JHS, and it's the Bender from their discontinued Legends of Fuzz series. This is a Mark III tone bender in terms of circuitry, and it is an absolutely wonderful fuzz. It's really fat, thick and rich sounding. It sounds great for so many different fuzzy styles of music. You've got the three knobs and a mode switch on the side to give you a bit more of a mid push if you'd like to do that. But this is just a fuzz that I find I can use for so many different styles of fuzzy goodness, from 60s kind of Hendrixy, Gilmore-y sorts of fuzz through to much more modern things that are great for Jack White, Black Keys, and so on and so on and so on. So I really want to hear how those three favorite fuzzes of mine sound up against the Big Muff 2 and the Big Muff 1. Once again, we're going to be using a Fender Telecaster for this loop, so single coils again. Let's hear it now and we'll speak again afterwards. So there you go, 3 of my favourite fuzzes up against the Big Muff 1 and the Big Muff 2. What did you think again? Let me know your thoughts down there in the comments. But I have to say, I think that the Big Muff 2 again really found its footing within this one, and it has its own position within the comparison too. Now this dual op-amp circuit is darker, like I've repeatedly said, but it just seems to work, and it gives you something a little bit different that some of the other fuzzes can't quite reach. But I think if you have these 5 as featured in this loop, well, you've got all the fuzzes that you could ever really need. You might want to get a fuzz face or something like that, but for me personally, these are 5 fantastic options. Now the Big Muff 1 and the Big Muff 2 are both great little things. When it comes to the JHS Bender, that's probably still my favourite overall fuzz. It's so easy to get to grips with as well, which I think is very important. It's so versatile. I think it's possibly more versatile than a Big Muff for modern and vintage styles. I don't need the 2-mode switch on it, but it is just a wonderful sounding thing, and I really, really love it. I can say the same thing about the Boss Wazercraft fuzz. That is a wonderful option to have as well. I love the vintage and the modern modes on that one. It's a very, very quiet fuzz, so it's a little bit less kind of gnarly than the others in a way. It's a little bit more polite, and you actually might not want that in some fuzzy contexts, because after all, fuzz is supposed to make you sound like your amp is broken, isn't it? So there you go. The Boss is definitely a different take on this thing, a more kind of family-friendly take on the fuzz that does do gnarly as well if you want to. And finally, full marks for the DOD Carcosa. I still think that this is a wonderful and great option if you're dipping your toe into the world of fuzz for the first time, or for the 3rd or 4th time, and you want to spend about $100 or thereabouts. It's a wonderful, evil sounding fuzz pedal, and it will do amazing, gnarly, sputtery, velcro-y type fuzzy tones, really sort of broken amp sounding stuff, and it will take you all the way through to a much smoother vintage 60s overdrive sound as well, and everything in the middle. With all of the controls and switches, you can basically make that one do anything. It's probably the most versatile of all of these fuzzes, apart from the Rude Tech, but it does different kinds of fuzzes, and it's not a muff either, is it? So there you go. At the end of the day, you'll need to choose which of these fuzzes work best for you, and you might settle on 2 or 3 that will do the job for you. And for me personally, 2 or 3 from this last 5 would do the job for me, and I probably wouldn't need anything else in terms of fuzz. Maybe a fuzz face, maybe an octave fuzz, in fact definitely an octave fuzz, but that's for another video. So I hope that this video has kind of showed you a bit more what the Big Muff 2 sounds like, and how close and how not close it sounds to the other Big Muffs and some other fuzz type pedals. Here are, just as a conclusion, a few things that I can say about the Big Muff, having played it for a few weeks and compared it with the others. First off, I think it sounds great. It sounds different to all the other muffs, sounds darker, you've got more low end and more mids than the others, but it is a wonderful sound, particularly if you play doomy, sludgy, stoner rock riffs and stuff like that. If you want a more traditional muff sound, go for the standard Nano Big Muff. Now I've also noticed that in terms of the sounds, this one lets through, at least to my ears, more dry signal than the others. The Green Russian also lets through a little bit, but the Big Muff 2 lets through even more. And this is something that's going to make those 2 pedals particularly suited to bass players who appreciate the extra crispness and clarity associated with that. It's not something that I personally like or would go for, so in that sense it's something I don't like as much about the Big Muff 2, but it's not too much of a problem. Now in terms of the rest of the design, this thing is very, very red and in your face. You're not going to miss it on your pedal board. I think it looks kind of cool. I really like that about it, and I really like the fact that the knobs are not totally smooth like the ones on the other Electro-Harmonix Big Muffs. They're a bit textured. They're almost cupcake knobs, and that makes them really easy to tweak, especially if you're standing up and bending down to tweak your board on the fly. And we didn't use this in this video, and I would personally never use it, but this is a momentary unlatching foot switch as well, so you can choose whether you want to use it as a standard on-off switch or have it so you can stomp on it for a second or two for a flurry of fuzz just for a second and then release it to stop it again. Something I wouldn't need, but nice to have if you would like it. Now, why is the Big Muff 2 more expensive than the other Electro-Harmonix Big Muffs? I don't know, but hey, you've got Electro-Harmonix and JHS involved in the story and the building of this one. Plus, Bob Meyer deserves to get a bit of cash, doesn't he, for this design that is now being made. So I understand it in that way, and I think $120 is even not that much in the grand scheme of things in 2026. Plus, if you're a collector, as of time of filming, I believe that JHS still have some of the more limited big box versions of this one available. Should sound exactly the same, so check out that if you're a collector. But if you're someone like me, then just head down to your local music store, check out the Big Muff 2, try it against the other muffs, the other fuzzes, and hopefully you'll end up leaving with a fuzz pedal that's going to make you sound better when you next plug in to your rig. Enough waffling from me though, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you've enjoyed. Leave me some comments and thoughts about if you'd like to hear me do more stuff with the Big Muff 2 or shoot it out against any of the other fuzz pedals that I own. Leave me a like and a sub if you're still here. Check out some of the other fuzzy videos on my channel. There'll be some of those on screen right about now. But that's been it for today's video. I've been Rich and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.